St. Stephen was one of the first deacons of the Christian Church, in addition to being the first Christian martyr. Society believed him to be a Greek Jew who converted to Christianity. As the number of his disciples exponentially increased, confusion spread amongst them regarding the distribution of alms, money and food for the poor. Stephen's trustworthy and loyal characteristic brought attention to him, and he was elected as one of the 7 deacons who would perform the task. An effective and trusted orator, his preaching style caused such an impact on the people that the Jews became worried about his success and accused him of blasphemy. This resulted in him being made to stand trial. Whilst in the Supreme Jewish Law Court, the Sanhedrin, St. Stephen told of the numerous mercies that God had given to the children of Israel, and the crude and ungrateful way in which they had repaid him. St. Stephen accused them of murdering Jesus, whose coming, he recalled, was foretold by Moses. This greatly angered the crowd, who dragged him onto the streets and beat him. He was later stoned to death, according to the law of the time, witnessed by St. Paul. Allegedly, he died around the year 34 CE. Initially, society believed him to be buried in a grave north of Jerusalem. However, his body was exhumed and transferred to a grave outside Damascus Gate, where the stoning was believed to have taken place. St. Stephen is the patron saint of deacons, headaches, horses, coffin makers, and masons. He is often symbolized as a man carrying a pile of rocks or having them placed on his head. St. Stephen's Day is celebrated on the 26th of December and is referred to in the Christmas carol Good King Wenceslas. Traditionally, the name Stephen is Greek, from Stephanos, meaning crown. Stephen was a Jew, most likely one of the many who were born on the borders of Palestine, and therefore had come under the influence of the prevailing Hellenistic culture. The New Testament doesn't tell of the reasons for which St. Stephen became a Christian. However, it appears that after the death of the Messiah, he excelled to a more prominent position among the Christians and applied his public speaking talents to gain the attention and admiration of the Greek-speaking Jews of the city. Stephen, already a leader, began to speak to the public with more vigour, and he was working great wonders with the people. A lot of Jewish priests had been converted to the new faith. However, they still held the old traditions and rules laid down in the Mosaic law, which states the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth were realized through Jesus. Stephen was prepared to engage in controversy with them, as he was eager to point out that the law had been superseded. Continually, he quoted Jesus and his prophets to enable his speeches to be effective. He believed that all holy rites were of less importance than the Spirit, that even the temple might be destroyed as it had been in the past, without damage to the true eternal religion. Talk like this was carried out by hearsay and rumour and was often misquoted. This was to draw down the wrath of the Jewish priestly class on Stephen. It was in a certain synagogue called that of the freedmen and of the Cyrenians and of the Alexandrians and of those from Cilicia and the province of Asia that Stephen chiefly disputed. Perhaps they did not understand him, as at all events they could not make an effective answer, and so fell to abusing him. They bribed men to say that Stephen was making blasphemous words against Moses and God. The elders and the scribes were stirred up and brought him before the Supreme Jewish Tribunal, which had authority in civil and religious matters. False witnesses made their accusations, but Stephen defended them ably, reviewing the long spiritual history of his people. However, in the end, his defense turned to bitter accusation. He concluded, "Yet not in the houses made by the hands does the Most High dwell, even as the prophet says, stiff-necked and uncircumcised in heart and ear, you always oppose the Holy Spirit, as your father did, so do you also. Which of the prophets have not your fathers persecuted? And they now kill those who foretold the coming of the Just One, of whom you have now been the betrayers and murderers, you who received the law as an ordinance of angels and did not keep it." The crowd could no longer contain their anger. They rushed upon Stephen, drove him out of the city, and stoned him. At that time, Jewish law permitted the death penalty by stoning for blasphemy. Stephen was full of grace and fortitude to the end, and met the great test without flinching. Among the crowd was a young Jew named Saul. His own conversion to Christianity was to take place in just a few months.